Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Erik Pierstorff. I am a program director in the biological technologies topic of the NSF SBIR STTR program. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about our program called America's Seed Fund, powered by NSF. So we have two programs here. We call it the SBIR/STTR program. From going forward, I'm probably just going to be stating SBIR program. Please know that they're in the same program and they're going to be reviewed in a similar way. Just to distinguish between the two, the SBIR program there's no partnership which is required for this, but an STTR requires a partnership with an eligible research institution. Now, this could be a small business, this could be usually a not-for-profit institution which is focused on scientific or educational goals, such as a college or university, or it could be a federally funded research development center. And when you have this partnership, there are some obligated percentage of time which needs to be performed by each of the different institutions. The small business must perform a minimum of 40% of the research for an STTR, and the partner must perform minimum of 30% of the research in that program. SBIR program does allow partnership as well, but it's not required. So there are 11 federal agencies that have SBIR programs. It's managed by SBA. The goal of these is to stimulate technological innovation, to meet federal research and development needs, and to foster and encourage participation in innovation and entrepreneurship by women and underrepresented persons. We like to increase the private sector commercialization of innovations derived from the federal R&D funding. The different federal agencies that use SBIR are the Department of Commerce, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, Department of Commerce, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the Department of Defense, which has both SBIR and STTR, the Department of Education, Department of Energy, which has SBIR, STTR, Department of Health and Human Services, under which NIH is, and so that's part of NIH. NIH is part of that, which again has SBIR and STTR. Department of Homeland Security, Department of Transportation, Environmental Protection Agency, NASA, and NSF, which again both have SBIR and STTR. I'm going to talk now a little bit specifics about the NSF program. We have our own niche here that we like to focus on. We focus on early stage startups, which have unproven technology and has a commercially viable potential with broad societal impacts. When I say unproven technology, we're really looking for that early stage, high risk, high reward technology. We fund any areas of science and engineering, and I'll get into this in a little bit. I'm in the biological technologies topic, but really all areas of engineering and science are funded here. America's Seed Fund is powered by NSF. It funds startups in the development of groundbreaking, high impact, high risk technology, transforming scientific discovery into products and services with commercial and societal potential. NSF funding goes towards R&D, helping companies like yours de-risk technology for commercial success. So what we're looking for here is we're not looking for an incremental advancement of something you've already done. We're looking for something that has high risk technical innovation. There are questions that need to be answered still to determine if this is something which could be a good potential product, and make sure that there is a good market for this down the road. So we are looking for, like I said, high impact, high risk technology. And we're looking for things which have commercial impact and societal impact. So there needs to be customers. There needs to be someone who's going to want to use your service, buy your product down the road. There needs to be a substantial commercial potential here for this to be a meritorious proposal for us. NSF awards $200 million per year in R&D funding of small businesses. This is all non-dilutive. We don't take any part of your company, no IP or anything. And this can be up to $1.75 million for your company over a 3-year period. This is the breakdown of topic areas from fiscal year 2018. You could see the broad spectrum of things that we fund: electronics, IT, photonics, semiconductors, materials and manufacturing, chemistry and environment and life sciences. One thing that we notice is that there's a lot of overlap between topics. There's IT applications that focus on healthcare and life sciences, and vice versa, and electronics, robotics, materials manufacturing. So there can be lots of different applications for the technologies which are being developed, and it's not really a strict segregation like this. Under life sciences, we have biomedical technologies and biological technologies. And chemistry and environment, there's chemical technologies. In materials and manufacturing, we have advanced materials and instrumentation and advanced manufacturing and nanotechnologies. Photonics and semiconductors includes photonics and semiconductors. Electronics, IoT, and robotics has electronics, information, and communication, the Internet of Things, electronics, hardware, robotics, and wireless. IT has smart health, educational technologies and applications, information and communication technologies, and others is other topics. So irrespective of whether you feel that this is, your topic may not be a strict fit into one of these pieces of the pie that we have here, we're still interested in seeing the technologies that you have under development. So here's some data. Recent phase 1 awardees, 85% have had 5 or fewer employees, and 72% were founded in the last 3 years. Majority are first-time SBIR, STTR winners. What we're really looking to do is get in at the early stage for these companies, make an impact with our investment, get these companies off the ground, and have them graduate and move out to the next round of funding, whether it be VCs or some other type of funding. Our portfolio companies, this data is from 2014 until August of 2019. They had $7.2 billion in follow-on institutional equity financing and 97 successful exits. By that we consider an acquisition, a merger, or an IPO a successful exit. I'm going to give you a few examples of some of the companies that we funded as a program. Marinus Analytics is a company. It's a spin out from Carnegie Mellon University. The PI was a Carnegie Mellon graduate. The company is now in phase 2, phase 2B. Let's say phase 2B is a supplement to phase 2. This technology uses artificial intelligence to combat sex trafficking. It uses AI to find connections between ads in different venues more quickly than is currently possible, and can track traffickers across jurisdictions. The technology is used by law enforcement to accelerate prosecutions. Some other examples, there's Evocative Design, which is a New York-based biotech company which designs materials that's made from mushrooms. Thousand Eyes is started as an SBIR company and now has over 220 employees. It's raised $110 million in equity financing, and this delivers network intelligence, performance visibility, and actionable insights on digital experience for every user and application over any network. It's currently used by some of the world's largest and fastest growing brands, including 8 of the top 10 global software companies. Unspun is a additive manufacturing venture-backed robotics and apparel company which builds custom jeans and reduces global carbon emissions by at least 1% through an automated, localized, and intentional manufacturing. Diligent Robots is a company that started in Texas. It went through NSF I-Corps, which many of you have heard of, in 2015. Went through phase 1 and phase 2, and is developing robots to assist in hospitals to do some of the non-essential tasks to alleviate the strain and the burden on healthcare providers by navigating autonomously the hospital. And it has an arm and gripper that can pick things up like supplies and deliver them into places to help with the workload and burden for healthcare professionals. Silent Nanotechnologies is developing smaller, more powerful batteries with applications in electric vehicles, consumer electronics, and the electrical power grid. It's raised $285 million in funding. And lastly, Ginkgo Bioworks is a synthetic biology company designing custom organisms for customers across multiple markets. And this has raised around $790 million in follow-on funding. So how does it work? What do we do here? For SBIR, for NSF, this is a phased approach. We have a phase 1, which is feasibility research, which is generally 6 to 12 months, $256,000. And phase 2, which is research towards a prototype, which is generally 24 months and $1 million. I mentioned phase 2B earlier. It's one of the supplemental funding mechanisms that we have, which we match 50 cents on the dollar to third-party investment or sales that were generated directly from the NSF funding. So if your research led to investors coming in and saying, all right, I want to give you guys $1 million, we'll match $500,000 on that. So how to get started? The first step to apply for NSF is what's called a project pitch. This is a relatively simple way to let us know a little bit about your project, about your technology, and get quick feedback at the start of the application phase. It's a 3-page pitch. We'll get you back to you within 3 weeks, and it's a quick gut check. You know, is your project a good fit for the program? And our goal with this is to reduce the burden on small businesses. You know, if this may not be a best fit, you know, for your company, we don't want you to waste your time in putting together a proposal because you know it's a lot of work to do that. You know, it also helps with NSF staff and reviewers by having proposals which are really, you know, we give feedback and it really guides the companies into what we really want to focus on for the proposals which are received. In the project pitch, we will ask you to give some information about the technology innovation. You know, as I mentioned, we are looking for that high risk, high reward innovation at a very early stage. What the technical objectives and challenges are. You know, there needs to be a large technical hurdle, you know, that needs to be answered to de-risk the technology and move it forward. You know, what's the market opportunity? Who are you going to sell this to? Who is interested in what you're doing, and how do you validate that market? You know, do you have market research? Do you have letters, you know, or people who support that this technology is something that would be useful for the field? And then we want to know about your company and team. You know, who are you? You know, what expertise do you bring to the field? Where might you have gaps, and how would you address those gaps going forward? With the project pitch, you can submit it at any time to learn if your project is a good fit. You're limited to 1 pitch under review at a time. If you are not invited, you can submit another pitch, but the limit is 2 per submission window. There are currently 4 submission windows throughout the year. Again, the processing time is 3 weeks max, and you could submit your pitch on our website, seedfund.nsf.gov/apply. And if you go down to section 4 of that, that is where is a link to the project pitch. So what happens after you submit your project pitch? You'll either be invited to submit a full proposal, and we generally give you feedback as to, you know, what we're looking for in your proposal and some specific feedback on your pitch in general. And then we will guide you on the required registrations and proposal submission process. There are a number of registrations which are required to submit SBIR proposals. You'll need a DUNS number, SAM registration, research.gov, and some of those take a little bit of time. So it's always good to get started early on those, and we'll start walking you through that process after you're invited to submit a full proposal. If it's not a good fit, we will give you immediate feedback, but you'll have to go back to the drawing board. You'll be told why we didn't want to, why NSF wouldn't want to fund your project, and you could submit another project pitch, and hopefully come up with a project which may be a better fit for our program. So submission windows. What is a submission window? This is basically, with our program, you can submit a proposal at any time during the submission window. And it's a rolling submission, and proposals can be accepted at any time during that. However, we have these closures of submission windows. You know, basically it's kind of a pseudo deadline, which allows a critical mass of proposals to come in, and gives PIs, you know, kind of a deadline that they want to hit, because a lot of PIs like to have that deadline. But during the, so this is basically for proposals, but for project pitches, you know, you're allowed, once you have an invite, you're allowed to submit anytime within a year after that invite comes through, and you can submit in any of the submission windows that happens there. So if your invite happens in the middle of a submission window, you'll still be able to submit your full proposal, you know, within that year in any of those submission windows. So what happens after you submit an actual proposal? Here's a workflow of and time frame of what we see. So 1 to 3 months after the window closes, applications undergo panel and merit reviews. 4 to 6 months after the window closes, we'll notify you if your proposal is accepted or declined. And in that last 5 to 6 months after the window closed, if your proposal is accepted, you'll receive your funding. Review criteria that we look for in IIP, that's Industrial Innovation and Partnerships, which the SBIR program is part of. We look for intellectual merit, you know, and this is really, again, What is the innovation? What is the high risk technology? What is really being developed here? We look for the broader impact. How is this making an impact on society? Starting a company on its own is a broader impact. Having that entrepreneurial, education and development of workforce is a broader impact. But we often see a lot of broader impacts beyond that with our companies, and we really want to focus on, and this is taken into account in the review process. And the commercial potential, and I touched upon this earlier. We like to see that there is a good market potential here. Who is your customer? Who wants to buy your product, and how do you validate that and demonstrate that to us? One of the great ways that you can learn more about our program is to become a reviewer. So if you're thinking about submitting a proposal and you have a company, either from a commercial standpoint, you have expertise, or from a technical standpoint, one of the great ways to learn more about our program is to become a reviewer. And why would you want to do that? You can serve NSF and the science and engineering community. You can gain firsthand knowledge on the peer review process and learn how we do things at NSF. You learn about common problems with proposals, and you can incorporate that into whatever submission that you do going forward, and discover strategies to write strong proposals. And you meet colleagues and NSF program officers managing programs related to your interests. So if you're interested, this is a typical reviewer profile. They have an advanced degree in science and engineering. They have industrial or entrepreneurial expertise in the market or technology area of NSF's portfolio. They have experience founding, leading, or investing in small businesses or startups, or have other experience in new technologies. And again, this is a great way that you can contribute to the community, as well as learn about the review process and the SBIR program specifically. If you're interested in becoming a reviewer, please email us at SBIR@nsf.gov and attach a short resume or a link to your LinkedIn profile. And if you're interested specifically in the biological technologies where I am, you can even mention that in the email, and it'll get forwarded to me. With that, we'll do questions. I also want to talk first a little bit about I-Corps before we jump into the questions. This is a program, which is another program at IIP. It's outside of the SBIR program, but it's really a great way for early stage companies to do what's called customer discovery. And so what this does is, I have a great idea, but does anyone care about it? What does my problem solve, for my customers? Do customers want something more efficient, smaller, cheaper? Who will make a purchase decision? I was talking about the commercial potential earlier and having validation of that commercial potential. Doing I-Corps is a great way for small businesses to determine, who their customer may be. This is really a customer discovery. And these answers are not always in the lab, and if you're coming from an academic setting, they're not even always on campus. So I-Corps, it spurs translation of fundamental research to the marketplace. It trains NSF-funded faculty, students, and other researchers in innovation and entrepreneurial skills. There are different nodes now involving 27 universities and 99 university sites, and 8 other federal agencies also teach I-Corps. Outputs, there's been 1,600 plus NSF teams since 2013, and nearly 800 startups have been created. I-Corps is and isn't. Well, what is this? It isn't selling, pitching, or grant writing or business plans. It is $50,000 to focus on product market fit. It's team-based, it's curriculum processed and focused, and they need mentors. So if you're interested in learning about this, you can go to this link here, nsf.gov/I-Corps. And if you have the experience working in an entrepreneurial setting, you want to be a mentor, that might be a good way to access this as well. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions that we have about NSF, the SBIR program. I don't know if I should stop sharing my screen now. And I'm happy to see if we have any questions. I see that we have some questions in chat, and we'll start from there. So the first question from Stephen Rodriguez, well, that's Stephen, you just put this along to me, so I apologize. Does the idea or product have to be outside beyond college, or are students also eligible? You do need to have a small business, and you need to be, the PI on the program needs to be majority employed by the small business. So it is often difficult for people who are full-time students to start a business at the same time. That being said, that there's nothing that prevents eligibility, for students to start a business and potentially apply for SBIR funding. If you are a graduate student somewhere, this is something you would need to work out with your university. Are you able to take a leave of absence to do this, or otherwise figure that out? Is there any recommended traction or progress recommended on an average for a successful application? Is another question that we had come up. That's a good question. We are looking for that early stage technology. A lot of times this is difficult to have preliminary data. And for us, we do not require preliminary data on an application. I know a lot of programs say that, but we really believe that. However, you do need to have some scientific basis that the technology could work. There needs to be some scientific evidence that it could work as you're expecting. And so with high risk, high reward, it is risky that things might not work, but there needs to be, and we are looking for that risk, but there needs to be at least some basis scientifically that it could work. Question, do you have to have a co-founder or a team to be considered for funding, or are solo entrepreneurs okay? I have a lot of companies that apply that are just one-person team. What you need to think about is what expertise do you have, and what may you be needing to bring into the team going forward. So for a phase one, having a single-person team may be appropriate. You're looking to de-risk this technology. You may have some entrepreneurial experience, but to go from phase one to phase two, you're really going to be pushing in phase two funding for that commercialization. What's the next stage of commercialization, and what gaps might you have on the team that you need to bring in? Do you need to bring in someone with more business experience? Do you need to bring in someone who has IP experience or knowledge about that? If you have something that needs regulatory approval, are you going to need to be cognizant of that pathway, whether from bringing someone into the company or having consultants? And that's the way a lot of people will tackle this, is either through building out the team or having consultants come in and do things. So it's really showing what expertise you have. And from phase one, it's perfectly fine to have a solo entrepreneur, but when you move forward, you may need to build out the team more to have a successful application. For office hours, what is the next steps? When should we hear back about a meeting? We're working on that. I believe we're setting up office hours. Stephen, you're going to be working with me on that to make sure that we get people set up for that. So question now, I have a European startup that is planning to enter the US, Hartford specifically. Are there funding opportunities for European companies, or is this US based? So NSF SBIR program, it is a requirement. These are US based companies. There are also ownership requirements where the ownership needs to be majority owned by US individuals or permanent residents, and that it needs to be majority owned by individuals and not venture capitalists funds. And there's some specific guidances into how to figure out what you're eligible for with this. So obviously some of these early stage companies have angel funding. Many angel groups are actually just a consortium of individuals, and so they would fall under US based individuals, and not those investments may not be excluded from the ownership. Okay, next one is, how many project pitches do you feel teams go through before being a good fit and invited for a full proposal? The barrier for a project pitch is not as high as it is for a full proposal. And so, really with a project pitch, you want to highlight, the higher risk innovation and the market opportunity there. And if you do that on the first go around, then then you often have the first pitch invited. This varies highly from topic to topic, where in some topics, really identifying what is a high risk innovation may be more difficult, where for others, it can be a little bit easier. So it really is dependent on your topic in this case, and really your ability to demonstrate where that innovation lies. Are there any technologies areas that are out of scope for NSF funding? Good question. So we do fund all areas of science and technology and engineering. However, we do not fund any clinical work. So if you are developing something, a new medical device or a pharmaceutical agent, we will work on the early stages of that. product development, even preclinical work, animal work, showing proof of concept. But once you start moving to the clinic, that is an area that the NSF does not fund. What happens if the project changes in some way from the initial project pitch that is approved? In that case, I would recommend contacting the program director who approved your project pitch, and they will give guidance going forward as to the next steps. It's not uncommon for that to happen. You do have a year from when your project pitch is initially invited to when you have to submit your full proposal. And so a lot of things can change in that year. You may realize that your original project is kind of a dead end, or it may not work the way that you thought it was going to. So it's perfectly fine to change that. Sometimes if the fundamental technology is the same or similar, then I'll let the pitch go forward, even if the project has changed. However, if the project has changed substantially and the underlying technology has changed, then I would ask for a withdrawal of the initial pitch and then submission of a new pitch for evaluation. Next question is, what is the Partnerships for Innovation program and how does it relate to SBIR? So Partnerships for Innovation, or PFI, is another program which is really helping to spur the technology translation of fundamental research which has been performed at universities. And so PFI is a program which is open to NSF funded researchers. It's an award that goes to a university and not to a company. And it goes to the academic research at the university. The goal of the PFI is to translate these technologies and see if there's a fit for commercialization going forward. In PFI, you need to have a partner business. It can be a small business. A lot of times PFI awards go to university faculty who have a startup company, and their partner company is that startup company. And that will be the goal, to translate that technology, develop it further in the academic setting and see if there is a translation to the small business. Other PFI awards can go to companies that have partnerships with more established and larger companies. Part of the PFI goal is education of entrepreneurship. And so there's an educational component to PFI as well, where you need to build out the entrepreneurial education at the university and include that for postdocs and students. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that is a big difference. So, big things are, this is NSF funded research going to an academic institution, looking to translate this technology going forward and spur on education. Oh yeah, everyone who is awarded PFI is required to do I-Corps as well. And I-Corps is, the program I mentioned at the end there. So it allows you to see if there is an opportunity to translate these technologies that are developed in academia from NSF funded research into companies. Question, do we need to talk about phase 2 team requirements in the phase 1 application? It is good to highlight what you currently have to perform the work in phase 1. And then what I like to tell companies is, when you're thinking about your project, think about the full arc of where you're going, where you are now, and what a commercial product will be. The phase 1 project is really small. You really have a high technical innovation. You want to de-risk that technology. You can potentially do that with your phase 1 team. However, you still want to talk about the next stages, phase 2, and then other stages, towards commercialization. And it's good to hit upon. You don't need to delve into it into great detail, but in your phase 1 application, it's good to mention, hey, you know what? We're going to need to bring in someone with this experience for our next phase, and we understand that. Right now, we're focusing on this stage, but next stage, we're going to need to bring in these other people. And what that does is it tells reviewers that where the project needs to go in order to develop it commercially. And so it shows that you've thought about your overall product development and what the requirements may be going forward. So maybe a paragraph about that, saying that in phase 2 we need to bring on these areas of expertise because these are required. Next question, given our new COVID world, are you looking more heavily at medtech software companies to address the needs of society? Sorry, I have a little tickle in my throat. we're not looking more heavily in medtech software companies. That is one area that there is a lot of interest, and there are a lot of people that are involved in medtech software. And so that is an area that we do fund. But again, this is, a new COVID world, but at the same time, our focus is in all areas of science and engineering. And we don't have a specific call for COVID anymore. We did at one point. We had a Dear Colleague letter requesting COVID proposals in the spring, which has subsequently been archived. But we don't want to focus too heavily on one versus the other, because that would neglect the rest of the entrepreneurial community. And it's our goal really to foster all of the entrepreneurs and early stage companies at this stage. Question, is there flexibility on the start date for the project? There is. I mean, again, there's a time frame for the review process and the award process that happens. Once an award is made, we ask for what your desired start date is, and we can have some flexibility on that start date during that process. After a proposal is reviewed, and if it looks meritorious, we'll do something that's called due diligence, where we'll have communication with the PIs from the proposals and ask a series of questions, get to know more about the company. And one of the questions we ask is, what would your preferred start date be? If things get delayed, and we're trying to be a little bit more flexible with COVID and how it's affecting people's operations. If things get delayed, we can do things like do a no-cost extension, which can push the project out a little bit more and give some flexibility, at least on the end date there. Question, what are any common mistakes you see for phase 1, 2 that you recommend avoiding to maximize their outcomes? One of the big issues that I see, well, there are a number of different pitfalls, but one of the biggest issues that I see from a technical plan for phase 1 is a lot of companies forget that this is a bit fundamental R&D. Or not, sorry, forget what I said. It's not fundamental R&D, it's applied R&D. It's a R&D to de-risk the technology, but it is an R&D grant. And you need to have metrics of success for your technical objectives that show, all right, this is a high risk technology and I need to de-risk it to this point. So how do I know that I've de-risked it? What are the metrics that are going to tell me that I've hit those goals? And that's one of the things that I often see is not very well conveyed in especially in phase 1 proposals. Really like to see that there are metrics that say, this is a go, no go decision. This tells me that I have a project that should continue. Question, who owns the data developed under funding? If SBIR, how is it protected? The company owns the data and the intellectual property under this. We don't take any of the data. We have a data management plan, which basically says one line, which is all data generated is considered proprietary and owned by the company. So there are requirements that if you generate any intellectual property, you do disclose this on a program called iEdison, which follows intellectual property which has been filed by government funding. But that is owned by the company. Any more insights into the research in phase 1, the rigor that's necessary or to keep in mind? Again, we bring technical experts in to review the plans and to give their input on the technology. So you want to focus on, what is this, high risk technology that you're developing? Where is there innovation? And again, showing that you have the technical skills and ability to have a rational plan to take this forward to the next step. You often see things on the other side. If you have teams that may have come from an academic background and aren't thinking about the commercial potential and the commercial impact, you really need to bring that in and show that there is the potential here for a market. Because we do bring commercial people in as well to say, is this something which is a good potential market, and do they have a good strategy? Have they done competitive analysis, and why are they better? Or what is their advantage over what's out there right now? Next question, has COVID led to increased competitiveness, reduced funding rates of NSF SBIR? That's a great question. So, obviously the program has a budget, and the question is, with COVID, I guess, do we see more proposals come in? And we have seen a big spike in proposals which has come in, and so I mean that does have the impact of potentially increasing the competitiveness of the program. We don't have any specific data on that as of yet, about how many proposals that have come in and what our success rate is at this point. But we have seen a large increase in proposals which have come in, and I think that's true amongst all government agencies for SBIR. The next question, does phase 2 help with recruiting gaps in the initial team, or any guidance on how to build a team for success? Yeah, that's a great question. So phase 2, you want to think about what your gaps are prior to phase 2. And one of the things that phase 1 awardees are highly encouraged to go through at NSF is something called the Beat the Odds Bootcamp. We also have a number of other resources, both from talking with program directors, as well as other resources that we provide for commercialization, assistance, and looking and doing customer discovery with the Beat the Odds Bootcamp. The Beat the Odds Bootcamp is essentially a mini I-Core, which gives you a good opportunity to really look at do some customer discovery and look at what the opportunity is out there. And that will help you identify some of the gaps that you might have in the team, and may provide some additional resources, for recruiting them. And really, when you're looking to build a team for success, one of the things that is a great opportunity is talk to your entrepreneurial community around, go to events like the one that you're at, and really see what resources there are. Some of these resources are regional, and to really help you build a team, give you some business and entrepreneurial expertise, and maybe other expertise that may be needed from a technical side, and have some resources for that. So, and also when we have our phase 1 awardees, we have our workshops where we bring all the teams together. There are oftentimes to network there and gain more information as well. Granted, that's all done virtually now, but still try to introduce people as best as we can. All right, next question is, what advice would you have for a first-time founder when it comes to fundraising, i.e. grant funding versus VC, CVC funding sources? How does NSF networks support entrepreneurs post-funding? So that's a good question. A lot of it depends on the stage of your technology and in what arena your technology is in. Grant funding is great because it's non-dilutive. It can help de-risk your technology. It also helps validate your technology to potential other sources of funding, whether it be VCs or angels or other types of investors. It is a longer time, as you looked at the review process. You have the pitch, you have the preparation of the proposal, the submission, the review process, and then the award. And so what we generally like to see is, if we have a phase 1 awardee, you're going to need other sources of income coming in, other sources of investment potentially. When you're submitted a phase 2 proposal and you're looking to, and it's scored well, we do our due diligence for phase 2, and part of that is what's called a financial review or a cap review. During the cap review, they will look at the financials of the company and see what your runway is and what's your burn rate. So if you only had one phase 1 award and you don't have any other type of funding going forward, that may be that may be deemed too risky by the financial review, going forward. And so it's good to have multiple sources of income to have a company which is viable and going forward. And one of the things that we do, as I mentioned, is a phase 2B, which is providing, it's a competitive process, but will match 50 cents on the dollar to investment that comes in. So if you have NSF funding and you get VC funding that comes in after that, even if it's, after the phase 1 award, it can be in the phase 1 or phase 2. The phase 2B is additional funding that we can provide, which is basically, kind of helps validate, you know, the VC funding that came in, and is kind of reward for that, you know, to help met those with those matching funds. How does the NSF network support entrepreneurs post funding? So our goal, you know, as I mentioned, you know, we have this Beat the Odds bootcamp. You have opportunities to do I-Corps potentially even after you get a phase 1 funding. The program directors will help try to guide and provide you access to their expertise with their experience with working with small companies, either personal experience or also with you know, funding for the NSF. And then we're trying to set up some networks, you know, for the companies to actually do some networking themselves. But there are a number of different things which are, you know, available, you know, in there. All right, next question is, what has NSF funded recently? Well, you can actually go onto our website, and there's a list of recently funded awards which are present there. I'll try to pull that up for you guys, see if I can provide you with that link as well. But it's something you can find on the NSF website. Question, if we've recently already completed I-Corps, do we still need to do the Beat the Odds bootcamp? It's a good question. And it is basically a case-by-case basis, and I would recommend talking to the program director. If you have an award, if you need to do the Beat the Odds bootcamp, you can discuss it, you know, during the diligence process or even post-award to see if we need to do it. I have personally let some companies not do the Beat the Odds bootcamp if they've done extensive customer discovery in the past. Next question. It's been hard finding others to buy into the idea, and talent gets poached by big companies with higher paying salaries. Any issues when it comes to retaining team members? This is always a big question, you know, with startups. You know, how do you to get the quality people to join the team and to retain them? There are different ways we could do that. You know, obviously there's different reasons why people will join startups, you know, whether it be they've got more freedom and autonomy in a startup company. There's stock options, you know, and they believe in the technology and they're incentivized by, you know, even if they have a lower salary now, there's the potential for that big payout down the road. And so it's up to the company and team to really, you know, see if they can identify those talented people and how you're going to incentivize and keep them on the team. All right. So that is the last question that I see in the chat. Stephen and Stephanie, I'm just curious if anything else has been coming up. All right, nothing yet. Nothing at the moment. Stephen, question for you, and I know this came up earlier, is with office hours. I know that we're setting that up going forward. Some people were asking how that was going to be done going forward. You can just type it to me in the chat if you want. All right, so this is, you submit the form for the office hours, and then they'll coordinate with you and with me to do the setup for the office hours. So it's going to be happening sometime over the next couple of weeks, I believe. And so when you submit the form, we'll figure out how that works for both of our schedules, and we could figure out a time to chat directly. Okay. Well, everyone, thank you so much for your time. Again, if you have any questions or you're interested in being a reviewer, please reach out to SBIR@nsf.gov, and then we can answer those questions. And otherwise, I look forward to meeting many of you in my office hours upcoming. Thank you very much.